Hey everybody, welcome to 30 Minutes of Awakening, this Tuesday evening uh, sort of class that I'm doing on Bodhicitta, on the Mind of Awakening. And we've been doing a little bit of meditation. We've been talking about Bodhicitta, the Mind of Awakening. We've been talking about compassion. And right now we are continuing our talk about the Four Immeasurables, a wonderful set of verses, a little short set of verses about cultivating all these wonderful attitudes and emotions in our life. So compassion is one of them. There's love, compassion. There's sympathetic joy and equanimity. And so we started talking about that a little bit last week. So we're going to just continue with that. And I just kind of started to unpack it a little bit. And we got time, plenty of time to talk about this and get into it and really kind of dive deep. So I wanted to go ahead and start as usual with our meditation this evening. So we'll go ahead and do about I don't know, 5, 7 minutes of meditation or so. And we'll just kind of settle in here and calm down, relax a little bit, let the mind settle. All right, so here we go. We're going to do a little bit of mindfulness meditation, just using the breath as our object of meditation. So we can go ahead and start to get comfortable. Just kind of taking a quick scan through our body, through our posture. The main thing that we're looking for here is just make sure that we're sitting up straight, whether we're sitting on a cushion, whether we're sitting on a chair, sitting on the couch, cross-legged or feet on the ground, it doesn't really matter. And we just want to go ahead and just let ourselves kind of begin to bring our attention to our breath. Just begin to notice the breathing. Notice the sensations of the breath coming in through the nose, maybe coming out through the mouth. And if you have a little kitty cat to join you in your meditation, it makes it all the better. And we do this with a very light and kind of open, uh, easy heart, open heart. We're already so kind of tense and tight in our regular life. We don't want to bring that to the meditation. We want to bring a little bit of kindness for ourselves, some patience. We also want to let go of our expectations for meditation. The more you do meditation and the more you let go of your expectations of what is supposed to be happening, actually the more beneficial it becomes. Because then it doesn't matter if you're having a good meditation or a bad meditation or a mediocre meditation. You can just kind of let all that expectation go and just sit and watch the breath and just do the best you can. And that in and of itself is an act of loving kindness and compassion for yourself. Letting go of those expectations. Letting go of the need to achieve something or to do something right. We just notice the breath. And even when we stop noticing the breath, even when our minds drift, which is going to happen, we're going to get caught up in thought somewhere along the line. Even when that happens, we don't beat ourselves up. We don't say, "Oh, now I'm doing it wrong. I'm not getting I'm not getting the meditation right. I can't even meditate right." No, it's okay. Once we've noticed that we've come off the breath, we're already back in meditation. We're already back in present moment awareness because we've recognized, "Oh, I'm not in the breath." So what do? Come back to the breath. It's no problem. Even if you sit on the cushion for 5 minutes or 7 minutes and just for like just one flash of an instant you are present and mindful, that's worth it. So just keep trying. Just keep sitting through it all. Keep sitting through your thoughts. Whatever's coming up, just let it come up and just do the best you can to bring your awareness back to the breath. And once you've done that, there you are. Okay, so yeah, let go of expectation in meditation. It's not about um, it's not a project. This is not a project-based exercise. um, the mind of awakening, cultivating the mind of awakening, uh, isn't a project either. It's not um, the usual sort of achievement, you know. All that stuff, all that, wanting to achieve, wanting to get something, wanting to make things perfect for ourselves, achieve happiness by arranging, this impermanent world around us in just such a way that we're finally happy. I mean, just think about that for a moment. It's not really possible because of the fact that everything is impermanent. So when we sit down to do meditation, we're kind of recognizing that. We're recognizing that in ourselves, that that everything is kind of fleeting, everything is coming and going. Nothing's really hanging around for too long, especially our thoughts. Our breath isn't permanent. It's just coming in, going out, coming in, coming out. And we're just settling in with that. We're settling into that, and whether we're aware of it or not, we're deepening our experience of how reality actually is. And that reality is not what we normally think it is. It's not solid. It's not, fixed. It's not all it's cracked up to be. Everything's interdependent, everything's changing, everything's, comes into being, goes away. Even mountains, they change, and they grow, or they, erode and become smaller year by year. So, that's kind of why in meditation we're not trying to achieve anything solid, fixed, any kind of goal. We're kind of giving that sort of part of ourselves a little bit of a break, so we can maybe try to find a different way of finding happiness. So that's what we're talking about. When we're looking at what we're looking at these days, or right now, which is the Four Immeasurables. This short prayer or set of verses, or whatever you want to look at it. It's a very famous prayer in Tibetan Buddhism. It's said at the beginning of just about every practice. We generate these four immeasurable attitudes, and those are love, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. And and these are qualities or attitudes or emotions that are very positive, for lack of a better, more complicated philosophical way of explaining them. They're positive. They and we can just kind of explore in ourselves, like, if that's true or not. When we feel a sense of love for someone, when we feel a sense of compassion, when we feel a sense of joy that someone is happy, we feel good. These are positive emotions, and what we're trying to do with this practice of the Four Immeasurables is to remind ourselves to work on those things, that we can cultivate these things. We can that these attitudes and these emotions are without limit, really. They're not it's not like you can ever reach a certain limit of how much love that you can give. That's not to say not to talk about free love or something like that. It's not about relationship, romantic love. It's about love for beings. You can love your children, and you can love your partner, and you can love your family, and you can love your neighbors, and you can love your coworkers. You can love everyone in your community. You can love your enemies. You can love people you don't even know. There's no limit to it. There's no limit to how much you can love. Same goes for compassion. And at first, when we're getting started here, we might kind of doubt that. We might think that that's actually not possible. And that's why we train in it. That's why we have this prayer that reminds us, and we do meditations on each of the verses of love, compassion, joy, equanimity. Because it's not always so intuitive. Because we do have this preconceived notion that I only have so much love to give. I only have so much compassion to give. I can't rejoice in somebody else's well-being. That means that I have to give something up. So our habit, our habitual way of thinking about things is that these things are limited. And so we use this prayer or these verses to remind ourselves that that's not the case. That actually we have boundless love. We have boundless capacity for compassion, boundless capacity for rejoicing in the well-being and the happiness and success of others. And so, right? Right, kitty cat? That's Kingfish. He agrees. So let's go into this prayer a little bit here. I put it in the description of the video here, and we started talking about just an introduction last week, and the prayer goes, and I'll just read the prayer as it, one of the translations of it, and pretty common translation. So may all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings not be separated from sorrowless bliss. And may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. And so you'll notice that there's not any, specific mention in there of love or compassion or sympathetic joy. There is mention of equanimity in the last one. But that's the order that they go. When we're rejoicing in the happiness, or when we're wishing happiness for others, that's limitless love. When we're wishing that beings are free from suffering, that's compassion. When we're what is the one? May all sentient beings not be separated from sorrowless bliss. That's joy. That's what's called sympathetic joy. And then may all sentient beings abide in equanimity. And so we started talking a little bit last week. We started to kind of dive into it. And what we do is, in the tradition that I practice in and that I study in, when we start studying this prayer, we actually start with the last one. We start with immeasurable equanimity. And because that's actually the kind of the foundation of all the others. And little fur ball here. Oh man. So we start with immeasurable equanimity, and so the verse is may all sentient beings. That's what all the verses start with. May all sentient beings. And so I wanted to unpack that a little bit more. We talked about it a little bit last week, and I want to really emphasize again the importance of this phrase. May all sentient beings. All sentient beings. It really does mean all sentient beings. It doesn't mean may my friends and immediate family that I like. It doesn't mean, just people who like the Seahawks, or my sports team. It doesn't mean, only people of my religion. It doesn't mean may all Americans, or may all Brazilians, or may all Europeans. It says may all sentient beings, and it's really important to kind of unpack that a little bit and to appreciate really what that means in this Buddhist tradition of the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. There's a lot of talk about sentient beings. What is a sentient being? And what are we talking about when we're talking about all sentient beings? So a sentient being means a being that has a mind. Any being that has any kind of sort of awareness. Any being that is capable of experiencing in any way a sense of I, a sense of subject and object, that has awareness, that can respond and interact with its environment and things that are happening in such a way that it manifests in some basic ways. Generally speaking, just think about your own experience. When situations come up, we're either happy about it and we want more of it, and we like it and it makes us feel good when something comes up, or it is something that scares us or makes us angry or makes us want to run away or harms us in some way. Or we just kind of don't notice it and we're kind of neutral towards it. So a sentient being is a being that has a mind, that has some sort of awareness, even on a very basic level. It doesn't have to be complex emotions. It doesn't have to be language. It doesn't have to be culture. It doesn't have to be a capacity for self-reflection. It just has to be, a sentient being is defined as any being that has a mind, that has awareness, that is able to kind of maybe interact and respond to phenomena. So, and in the Buddhist tradition, we talk about all these different, kind of types of beings. And without going into like incredible detail, I mean, it really does include just about everything that you can imagine, even beings that maybe we don't normally see or think about, but definitely is inclusive of all human beings, or all human beings are sentient beings, and definitely all animals and all birds and all fish and all insects are also sentient beings. They possess a mind. They have a consciousness. They have an awareness. And this is being recognized actually by it's being recognized by science. Until even very recently, there was this kind of assumption that animals and fish and insects, they're just sort of these biological machines. There's no awareness there. There's no consciousness. But that's being disproven. And I believe it was in New Zealand, they've declared that that animals are sentient beings, which is wonderful and also infuriatingly frustrating, because Buddhists and the Eastern sort of Vedic tradition that goes back thousands and thousands and thousands of years has recognized this since the beginning, that all beings are sentient beings. All beings have awareness. All beings are autonomous in some way, and as a result are entitled to certain rights, basically rights to exist. So, so that's what we're talking about when we're talking about what is a sentient being. And so at the beginning of each of these lines is "May all sentient beings." And it's helpful for us if we take a little bit of time to kind of meditate on that a little bit, to think about and experience and analyze exactly the scope of what we're talking about when we say "May all sentient beings." And we started to do a few months back when I started this, we were talking about compassion. We did some meditations on compassion, and we started kind of with the self, and then we went out and started cultivating compassion and thinking about compassion for those close to us, and then those a little bit further out, and those a little bit further out, and we kept on widening the circle a little bit to include more and more and more. And so we'll do something like that today. We'll do a little bit of a short little meditation on how we can kind of think about sort of including all more sentient beings, more beings in our awareness, by simply calling them to mind and recognizing that, yeah, they are sentient. They have awareness. They have a mind. They experience, they have an experience of being alive. They experience fear. They experience hunger. They experience satisfaction. They experience pleasure. They experience, the will to procreate. They experience all these things. And so we'll kind of do that with a short little meditation here, just a few minutes, and I'll just guide us through here. So we're just going to get back into that straight posture, get into our meditation posture. And we can start with ourselves. We can just start with calling to mind, what is a sentient being? Well, what we're talking about here is I'm a sentient being. I have a mind, right? Let's make that assumption, at least. I have a mind. I'm aware. I'm conscious. Some of the time, hopefully. And just kind of recognize that and acknowledge that and make that assumption and start from there. I'm a sentient being. And then again, we start to widen the circle a little bit. And let's go ahead and then widen our circle to include the people that are closest to us. You know, whether that's our partners, our husbands, or wives, boyfriends, girlfriends, roommates, children. And just acknowledge for a moment that they too are sentient beings. They have awareness, they have consciousness, they have an experience of being alive. And now we want to widen the circle a little bit more. And so if we have any animals, any pets in the house, in our household, we kind of take a look at them and say, you know, is that true? Are they sentient beings too? Do they have awareness? Do they have consciousness? Do they have an experience of being alive? It might not be exactly how mine is, but generally speaking, do they have an experience of being alive? And then we widen the circle a little bit further. Maybe we include our neighbors, if we know our neighbors. People across the street, people upstairs, you know. Just kind of imagine that, you know, we've seen them at least, and we know that they're there, and just kind of imagine, well, they're probably there right now, or at least some of them are. So yeah, they're sentient beings too. We've seen them moving around. We've seen them doing their thing. We expand our circle a little bit and think about the birds on the electric wires, you know, on the trees outside, and maybe all the insects that are in our yards and flying around in the air. And then continue to expand that circle, you know, keep on pushing out a little bit further, including more and more beings. Hey, all the people that you work with. All the people that share your commute every day. Everybody in your town or your city. If you live in a city, just think about how many people are in the one city that you live in. Maybe it's tens of thousands, maybe it's hundreds of thousands, maybe it's a couple million. And even if there's that many, you know, human beings, think about all the animals that are there. Just in the place that you live, your town or your city. How many pets, how many dogs, cats, birds, hamsters, turtles, iguanas, boa constrictors. And then all the wild animals, all the birds and all of the insects and maybe the fish, mammals, the raccoons, all the squirrels in the parks. And then just try to hold in your mind, just hold in your awareness, just that sort of that feeling, that awareness of, wow, there's a lot of sentient beings around me. Just in my city, just in the place where I live. Countless. It would probably take lifetimes to count all of the beings, all of the people, the animals, the pets, the insects, the birds, the fish, the mammals in just your town or your city. It's probably not possible to even conceive of how many sentient beings are in that small area. And then just really let your mind be blown, and just then just kind of like let the floodgates open and say, well, you know what? There's a whole world out there. And it's absolutely filled with life, filled with sentient beings. They all have awareness. They all have some sort of consciousness. And just like me, they want to be happy. They want to be free from suffering. They don't want to die. And simply rest in that understanding for as long as you can. It's going to eventually go away, but for as long as you can, just kind of hold all those beings on this whole planet of ours, just acknowledging that they're there. Acknowledging that they're there. And so that exercise, that meditation, is kind of can be a really good ground for us to start to stand on, to start to habituate our minds to recognize that we're not the only ones here by far. You know, it's not just me. It feels that way a lot, right? I mean, I know I feel that way a lot. I think that I'm the only person in the world. And whenever we get, super angry, or whenever we really want something really bad, that's what we're reduced to. Our world becomes very, very small, and we think like it's me. I need to have this need met. I need to either, get this thing away from me, or I need to express my anger, or I need to get that thing that I really want. And that is very limiting. So what we're doing with this kind of meditation, this kind of analytical meditation, this sort of exploration of something else, something new, is recognizing that is never true. Even when we're feeling that way, it's not true. Even when we're feeling like we're the only person in the world, it's simply not true. And we're habituating our minds to that so that we can widen the circle. Expand our world, expand our horizons, expand what's possible. So that's where we'll kind of end today. So maybe if you like, for the next few days, or for the next week or so, work on that meditation a little bit. Come back to it every day for a few minutes, and just remind yourself throughout the day that, you know what, yeah, there's a lot of people in the world. There's a lot of beings in the world. And just simply maybe recognize, as you're walking to your car or to the bus and you see an insect on the ground, you might think, yeah, that's a sentient being, and you might appreciate that throughout your day with all of your interactions with people. So, but just come back to it from time to time, and just let your mind expand a little bit. So that's where we'll leave it today again, and I'm going to start doing a dedication at the end of these discussions, talks, And what we do is we do a dedication of basically our positive energy that we've generated here, and we just kind of say, like, you know, we want what we've done here today, what we've talked about, the energy that we've put into it to yield really good results, really good fruit. So, so today we take this positive energy and may it be dedicated to the enlightenment, to the well-being, to the ultimate happiness of all sentient beings. Okay, so we can do a little dedication like that. And I thank you so much for watching. Again, if you have questions, please comment. I do post these on my YouTube channel, my personal YouTube channel, Chris Lemig, and then you can rewatch them there if you like, and or comment there with any questions. So take care, have a blessed day or night, wherever you are, and be well.